We're down to the final week in college football as far as the regular season's concerned. So with a heavy heart, I've come here to say welcome to the Stock Report, where we take a look at what NFL draft prospects help their stock and hurt their stock. Let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with Friday night, Florida State, NC State. And I'm going to be talking about Devon Marshall, the corner there at NC State. He's 5'11", 200 pounds, and he had himself a day. He had himself a game. I don't think I've seen this many pass breakups in a game ever since I started the channel. So he had 4 tackles. He allowed 4 receptions for 68 yards. That was on 14 targets, 7 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. Could have been another interception in there. But let's get into the notes I took during this game. So this is at the beginning of the game. First play, it's a deep shot to Deuce Robinson, who he was on for most of the game. So he was shadowing the top receiver on the opposing team. So deep shot to Deuce Robinson. Robinson had a step on Marshall. Marshall showed good recovery speed. I think he actually got up to 20 miles per hour. And he was fortunate that the ball was delivered a tad late, that he was actually able to catch up to it. And basically taking the cues from Robinson that, okay, here's the ball. This is where, when and where it's going to arrive. Let me get in that way. So right off the bat, I was like, okay, it's not like Deuce Robinson's the fastest guy. So maybe speedsters can give him trouble. Well, the same drive, he runs vertically with Makai Danzy. If you're unfamiliar, he's a speedster at Florida State. He's a legit 4-3 guy. He goes step for step with Danzy down the field. He does a good job of finding the catch point despite not getting his head around. And that's something I've noticed a bit with him, that he doesn't typically get his head around. And I think that's primarily when he's in press coverage, because I'm going to get into it later, but I'm like, man, I actually really like this guy in off coverage. So also, he's 5'11". He's listed at 5'11". He does not look 5'11". The frame feels much longer than that. Anywho, one of the receptions he gave up, I think this one was to LaWayne McCoy. It was basically he was in zone. It was a high-low read for the quarterback. And by the time he was like, okay, he's going to go high, I think he was a tick late to anticipate, a little clunky getting around. I think that led to, it was like a 22-yard reception. But gets an interception on this same drive. So redemption. It was basically an overthrow while Castellanos was under pressure. So it was kind of a gimme interception. Next drive, Robinson actually gets a good release. And I'm not going to lie, Marshall, he's kind of dense, right? So I expected maybe a little bit more impressed. And I get it. It's Deuce Robinson. He's big. He's built for this. But he got off of that press with relative ease, but I thought Marshall did a good job of keeping his hands connected, being able to stay with Robinson. And this was probably one of the highlight plays of Marshall, or at least one of the plays that most people know from this game, because he's able to stay connected with Robinson. You see Castellanos go into scramble drill, and Marshall, they're at the sideline. He slips. Robinson, he breaks to the back of the end zone. And Marshall gets his head around, takes a peek. He's like, okay, I see when the ball's going to be thrown. I got to get there. I got to get there now. And he arrives right when the ball gets there to set up the pass deflection, pass breakup. He had 5 pass breakups when on Robinson. So, dude, he was on one. He was having himself a good game. And I like how he uses his hands, because he just makes it tough for the refs to throw a flag, because I wouldn't say he's cautious, but there's not enough there to really warrant a flag, because he kind of, not baits. I guess bait is the best word I could use, but he kind of baits the pass catcher to partake in the hand fighting. There's just not enough contact, or not enough, like, okay, who is this, OPI? Is this DPI? To really warrant the ref to throw the flag. But he almost had an interception on And this was in off coverage. And this when I was like, oh, wow, I think I kind of like him in off coverage. He broke on, it was like a comeback or a hitch route to the outside and broke on it. Thought he had the interception. Ends up being a pass deflection. Kind of is what it is. And listen, he is patient. He stays balanced during a set. I think he gets a little, probably where he's the most handsy and forceful is at the top of routes. He'll let receivers kind of run right into him and he'll try to force and lean forward. That kind of leads to some balance issues and maybe more shifty, swifty wide receivers can get a step on him in that instance. And I think there was a case in this game where that happened, but I like him facing the quarterback. I like him with eyes on the quarterback because I think he plays really well. He breaks downfield or he breaks underneath with relatively solid bursts. It was just a phenomenal game. I think the longest reception he allowed in this game was 34 yards to Deuce Robinson, which I think the QB just threw an absolute dime towards the sideline. But the dude was phenomenal, man. He does a good job on in-breaking routes. He's able to kind of swipe at the catch point with that outside hand, kind of come in like a hammer and just kind of like jar the ball loose. I think he does a really good job of that. So Devon Marshall, this is one game that I've watched from him. And I don't know if I'd call him a day 2 guy. I don't know. I liked how he looked in this game for aspects. I don't think I'd want to see him in press unless he could like sure up some of his technique, because it's not just that you see an impress, but when he does initiate contact, that's where I feel like pass catchers get a step on him. But I really do like him in off coverage. Let me give a shout out to Justin Jolie in this game. This might be your tight end too. And golly, listen, I'm a sucker for pass catchers who can create after the catch, who have a lot of yak, and he is one of those guys. He added significant weight during the offseason, and he needed it. I wanted to see him be better in line as a blocker, but man, I really should just push those yak guys higher up my board because I love them so much. It was a great game by Joe Lee. He, there was one play where scramble drill. He came across the field towards the quarterback, basically being the best friend and being like, okay, I see you rolling out this way. Let me head that way with you and get open. And he did. It led to a 27-yard reception on the touchdown. He overpowered and shielded, kind of boxed out I can't remember if it was a corner or safety, but the defensive back from the catch point, easy touchdown. Great game from Joe Lee. Great game from Marshall. I do want to stick with the defense and talk about Genesis Smith, the safety from Arizona. He's 6'2", 204, a very long build, but he had himself a really good game against Baylor. Literally felt like he was, wherever the ball was, he was close. He had 11 tackles in this game, 4 defensive stops. That's a PFF stat. Basically, tackles for loss or plays resulted in no gain. He allowed 2 receptions for 17 yards. He had a forced fumble, which I think that was on the first drive. He forced a fumble where he essentially evaded or was able to stay away from contact with the pull-in lineman. And he just kind of like pushed the play to the sideline, got in there, hammered in on the ball, gave it a little punch, jarred it out, caused a turnover. And this is probably the biggest reason he might end up returning, because I think more people would be talking about him if he was a much better tackler. Tackling technique, it needs some work, but he's so strong that if he's able to get a hand on the ball carrier, he's gonna slow them down immensely. And when I did my safety rankings, and I have him quite high, I talked about like this dude is exceptionally strong, clean up as a tackler, and honestly, the pursuit ankles, he could be definitely better with his pursuit ankles. Luckily, he's fast enough, he's athletic enough to be able to recover. He had a nice chase down of Caden Knighton, running back there, to stop or at least minimize a big gain. He had another chase down of Knighton late in the game. He just was consistently rallying to the football. He checks all the boxes. You love the build. It's kind of a slender build, but he can put a lot of weight on. I think he's only a third-year player. He can return, but he checks so many boxes. If he could clean up and run support, yeah, for sure, day 2 guy. Maybe French first rounder. There, I said it. Maybe. Might not be this year, though. Might not be this year. Before we talk about more prospects, I gotta talk to y'all about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Grab your phone, download the app Underdog Fantasy, sign up with promo code, you guessed it, Broshmo. They match the first deposit up to $1,000 dues. Matter of fact, that isn't the first promo that they're gonna offer you, because they have promos each and every day, whether you like weekly best ball or higher or lower on player stats. I like them pick'ems. They allow you to mix and match. It's not just football and you got to stick with football. You can mix some of your favorite higher lowers in football with, I don't know, basketball, hockey, baseball when it comes back, Quidditch, Marco Polo. I don't know. You get the point. But if you do download that app, remember, you sign it up with promo code Broshmo. But as always, play responsibly and play within your means. But let's talk some running backs, because this draft class kind of feels like it's lacking in the running back area. But let's talk about, I guess, running back 1, Jeremiyah Love. If you weren't sold on Love coming into this game, and some people would say I'm not sold on Love, I have him hovering around my top 10. I refuse to put that blue chip, I guess, tag on him, just because it's like, I don't just like handing out blue chip grades, but after this game against Syracuse, it might warrant it. He's 6'2", 212 pounds. He had only 8 carries, but they went for 171 yards, 3 touchdowns. And it literally, this game embodied everything that people love about him. He's big and he's strong. The game was 21-0 before the offense even took the field for Notre Dame. And that's when Love rips off a 45-yard touchdown run. He showed the patience. He showed the ability to make defenders miss in tight quarters, and then he showed that home run speed once he sees the hole. You love it. He had a red zone touchdown where he showed the strength to be able to power through contact to get to the end zone. And then his third touchdown was the longest touchdown of the day for him. I think it was like a 68-yard touchdown where he just turned on the burners, and that was that. So yeah, he's easily running back 1 in this class. People are going to have them in his top 10. Maybe I'm just too old school when it comes to, running back value. I don't know if I can put him that high, just knowing that usually teams that are drafted in the top 10, they don't have the offensive line to facilitate a running back like this. I mean, we're seeing it with Ashton Genty, unfortunately. Great running back, offensive line needs a ton of work. So maybe that shouldn't dictate my big board. So I'll probably move him a little bit, but I say a little bit. I have him at 12 or 13, something like that. But on a side note, if you want to talk about running back 1, let's talk about probably running back 2, because as Jonah Coleman, I think he's banged up, he's hurt, but Jadarian Price has been amazing. Dude stacked on a lot of muscle this offseason. Like, if you look at his arms, he's yoked to the gill, but he had a 58-yard touchdown in this game too, where he just cuts it back inside, hit the pedal, hit the accelerator, and he was gone. But let's stick with running back happy hour. Talk about L.J. Martin, the running back at BYU. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. Yes, he is a power back through and through. Had himself a game against Cincinnati where he had 32 carries for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 3 receptions for 44 yards. But first drive of this, I think it was the first drive, he had a Derrick Henry, Marshawn-esque type of stiff arm. Almost. The defender ended up holding on for dear life, and the other defensive players were able to rally and bring him down. But you just saw it. You saw him cock that sucker back and just get off me, boy. Ended up being a 13-yard run, but he had a 20-yard run where defenders just bounced off him. It looked comical. And granted, in this game, I think early on, there were a lot of big holes for him to run through, but I'm not saying this dude doesn't have patience or doesn't have vision, because he does. His touchdown run, the final touchdown of the game, I believe, he stumbled. He basically just showed the patience, showed the vision, found the avenue, then fought his way to the end zone for like a 18, 20-yard touchdown. So Martin is another cat who, I mean, to be fair, this run back class feels like guys are dropping like flies. They're probably returning. Like, I was a big Hollywood Smothers dude. He got banged up. And just now it's kind of been a split backfield since he's returned. You got Justice Haynes down with injury. He might show back up during bowl season or if they make the playoffs. But yeah, in a running back class that's like, hey, we need some guys to stand up. Please, please. Well, you got big, strong Martin here. And then this might be looking to the future because I don't think he's going to come out in this class. But Joe Jackson, the running back for Kansas State, in a losing effort, mind you, had himself a game. So he's coming in at 6 foot, 212 pounds. I think he really started being the lead back just about a month or so ago. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. This is the first game I've watched of him. I think I just added him to my draft guide, but he goes for 24 carries, 293 yards, 3 touchdowns, had a 19-yard reception in this game too. And that's where I think I kind of realized something about him. But let's talk about Joe Jackson, because golly, he opens up the game with a 45-yard touchdown run. Nice cutback. He showed the burst once he saw the daylight and was like, okay, he's got some burners to him. But then he also had a 33-yard run. Oh, was the 45-yarder even a touchdown? I don't think it was. But the 33-yard run, he showed good patience, but the contact balance to be able to absorb a hit from a defensive lineman and then not lose speed or momentum. And he runs incredibly low for a 6-footer. So much so that I don't think he's 6 foot. He might be 5'10", 5'11". I don't think he's 6 foot. But he did have he had a couple of big touchdown runs in this game. So he had a 66-yard touchdown where he just didn't waste time in the backfield. He saw the hole, hit the accelerator. He was gone. And I don't know how to really explain this dude's running style because he's fast, but it's not like he is smooth. It feels like he is just rumbling and stumbling down the field, that each one of those steps that the earth slowly just goes down, it descends with every step. He's like a off-road crotch rocket, if you will. He's not gliding. He's definitely rumbling down the field, but he does so with speed. He had an 80-yard touchdown in this game where he stumbles out after he cuts it back. And then out in space, it's just him and the defender. He just hits a rocker step. Bam, defender's like, well, I hesitated. I'm done. I'm cooked. And then he just speeds off. Touchdown. It was just insane. I think he had over 200 yards by halftime, which is just insane. He had on this 19-yard reception. This is where I was like, there's no way this guy's 6 foot. He's shorter than that because he runs low. He looks dense. He looks low to the earth. I'm not willing to believe he's 6 foot, but still, great game from him. He had a 25-yard touchdown run where he just takes on a linebacker one-on-one and spins out of the contact, just kind of like dusts his shoulder off like nothing happens, accelerates into the end zone. Great game. Probably a guy, though, to look to for the future. I am kind of curious, though, with the lack of high-end talent or depth in this run back class. And again, that's not shots at Jeremiyah Love or anything. It's just you get to day 2 and it's like, okay, maybe there's like 2, 3 guys I'd be willing to take on day 2. And you look at the run back class we're just coming from, and it was like, golly, that class had so many players. It just feels like this one doesn't. This class doesn't necessarily have that type of depth. We love the NFL draft, and now my draft guide is available for purchase. It comes with over 500 player backgrounds and close to 300 player evals. It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So when I add a new eval or I change my rankings, you're going to be the first to know. It's going to have all the pro day and combine numbers along with analytics, and it's a Google spreadsheet for right now. So you have to include your email with the purchase, but we will be switching over to a website at the end of the year. And if you get it now, it's going to be cheaper now than it will be later. It's a great way to support the channel. And as always, much appreciated, much obliged. But can I get a welcome back to Max Klare, the tight end at Ohio State, who had himself a game against Rutgers. He had 7 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown. I guess it helped that Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate were out for this game. But this is the game that was like, yes, thank you, Klare. Oh, I just wanted to see that you were back. So currently, these are his sprain measurements, by the way, 6'4", 236. He looks like he's over 240. So I'm not too worried about that. But Klare had himself quite the game. A lot of what he did was kind of like chip and leak. Like he had a 39-yard reception where he chipped, and then he just went on a drag route where he easily just ran by the linebacker. Got up to, I think, about 19 miles per hour on that too. By the way, Sand also looked good in this game, and that's going to be a guy that I'm going to watch a little more closely over the summer. But I'm feeling first overall pick, just based on what I saw in this game. Again, I haven't watched him too in depth. Sand just barely missed Klare on an overthrow, but I mean, it was within Klare's reach. And this is where you maybe start to wonder about the ball skills. Like, okay, can you make consistently those catches that aren't perfect, but they're within your reach? You just have to make them away from your frame. Because remember, we go back to the Texas game where he had a very costly drop, and it was like, uh-oh. So just that. Just throwing that out there. He had a step on the defender, though. Separation, not a problem. The TD was kind of an easy walk-in TD. They had one guy doing a chip route. And basically, Klare was just open for the toss. It was a pick route. That's probably the best way to put it. So Klare was wide open. However, though, he had another leak and drag that was basically identical to the one that was his first reception of the game that ends up going for 25 yards. He did fumble in this game on a 12-yard reception. Klare, he goes to lower the shoulder for contact. And I think this was the defender that that he wasn't preparing to hit, but one that he probably didn't see coming, was able to put his helmet on the football. I think Ohio State recovered anyway, but yeah, this was a good game for Klare. And it's going to be really fun to talk about who potentially could be tight end 2 in this class. And discuss if that guy is worth maybe a second-round pick. How early of a second-round pick? That's probably the best way to put it. But let's go back in time. I remember during the summer, I planted my flag in a guy that I thought was going to emerge. He was going to erupt with big production. And that guy was DeAndre Moore Jr., the wide receiver out of Texas. 6 foot, 195, blazing speed. And I thought, oh man, I know that they got Wingo there, but with a bigger role, I think he's really going to show out. And that really hasn't come to fruition. I think he's kind of been slotted into a role that's vital to this offense, but it's not going to command a high volume. So he had 3 TDs in this game off 3 receptions. Love to see it. Goes for 74 yards against Arkansas. The first TD was just a bad coverage bust. Moore saw it. He hit the accelerator. Arch hit him downfield. Bam, 49-yard touchdown. And then, I mean, again, let's go into what Moore brings to this offense, because he's not always getting the ball. If you go to the Parker Livingstone, who with his emergence, it's kind of, again, there's too many mouths to feed now in this offense, at least from a passing volume standpoint. But if you go to Livingstone's 54-yard reception in this game, it was another coverage bust, but it was because of DeAndre Moore, who is also flying down the field on a vertical route. And the safety, not seeing Stone, but seeing that his corner is going to need some help because Moore is fast as hell. He moves over there, which allows Livingstone to be like, hey, I'm wide open for the tutty. And that's what happens. Moore almost had a 4th touchdown in this game, his 4th target, right? We don't talk about the 4th target, but it was just well defended by, I wrote down the guy's name, Jordan Young from Arkansas. Very well defended. It was kind of a contested catch situation where they were tussling. Moore tries to bring it in with one hand. If he would have got it, he would have stumbled right into the end zone or fallen into the end zone. But it was a tough catch, good coverage. Fortunately enough, 2 more touchdowns were going to come for DeAndre Moore here, as his second one came in scramble drill around the Arkansas 9-yard line. Moore basically found space. He was uncovered in the back of the end zone and just kind of waited for Arch to find him. Moore's just in there waving. I'm here. I'm still open. They still don't see me. Come on. When you get a second, throw it right here. And eventually, Arch got it to him. Arch also had a receiving touchdown this game, by the way, which is kind of wild. So the third touchdown, Arch, again, he's scrambling out. The corner tried to do 2 things at once, which is never a good idea. So this was around the red zone. I think it was like around the 18 or the 20-yard line. And basically, it's an out route. The corner, he sees that Arch is starting to scramble, so he leaves a little cushion to Moore out along the sideline to try to deter Arch from running. And unfortunately, it did, because that Arch was like, okay, I'm going to zip it here to Moore, who just strolls into the end zone for his 3rd touchdown of the game. So I really wish they would open up the route tree with him, because it feels like Moore is really just doing quick game stuff. And when he's not doing quick game stuff, he's just going deep. And listen, I get it. His role in this offense is vertical speedster, that he's going to be able to create one-on-ones, whether it's with him or it's going to create one-on-ones with Livingstone and Wingo, which are guys you want to get open as well. And while I'd like to see more opportunity in the quick game, it's kind of tough with a guy like Wingo, who's also good in the quick game. So I get it. Moore, he's doing his role. He's doing it hella well. He's just kind of stuck in a very talented wide receiver room. But let's talk more quarterbacks, because we need to talk quarterbacks in this draft class. We look at this draft class, we want someone to emerge as someone worthy of the 1st overall pick. And one of the names floated out there is Dante Moore out of Oregon. And I want to talk about why is that? Why do we view him as a top 10 pick, despite being a first-year starter? And I think a lot of those reasons were apparent in this game against USC, where he goes 22 of 30 for 257 yards, did have 2 touchdowns, also the interception. We'll get to that. But the first pass attempt, he's able to freeze the Mike linebacker enough to fit it in on a quick slant that goes for 24 yards. That's some pro-level eye work. I like that. The beginning of the second drive, under pressure, he ends up missing his check down, underthrows him. This is on 2nd and 3. And it's like, okay, maybe under pressure, it's just not there yet. I'll get to that. He does end up converting on 3rd down. It's just a chip and leak to the tight end. Tight end rattles it out for 14 yards. But later on in this drive, he is under pressure. He's rolling out, pressure barreling down on him, and he finds Kenyon Sadiq for a 13-yard reception. And he had to kind of work back to the middle while rolling out to find Sadiq. This was on 2nd and 10. Later on in the game, he has a slight overthrow of McClellan, which is like, okay, not everything's going to be perfect. At least I think it was McClellan. I don't know. They had a few wide receivers out this game, so I couldn't keep tabs on everyone who was getting the ball. But he finishes that drive with an 8-yard touchdown to Sadiq. It's a nice pass with some good throw, and it's just impressive. And this was in the midst of pressure, and it's just so cool to see how quick his processor is, and just that's kind of the impressive part about how far along he is despite being a first-year starter. He ends up nailing a 22-yard pass in a tightish window, and then he follows that up with a 30-yard pass with great touch. This was to Malik Benson. I remember this because on that very same play, Benson gets flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. Both teams had 2 unsportsmanlike conduct calls before the half. So the next one would involve an ejection. So I wish I could say after that, we saw less flags, but golly, I think there was 19 flags in this game. It was just insane. On the interception, let's talk about the interception. I kind of felt like the tight end ran his route a little too deep, because these were deep slants. You could even call them skinny posts to the inside, but the routes were really close to one another. and it allowed the defensive back, like there was just a ton of traffic in the coverage. The defensive back was able to kind of play the tight end underneath, but also be in the way of the receiver that was just behind him. And in all honesty, Dante Moore probably shouldn't have thrown this ball. Probably shouldn't even tried it. Kind of is what it is. But also, I either the play design or someone ran their route too far or too long. I can't put the blame completely on Moore for that, but he had a well-placed ball up the seams to Kenny and Sadiq, who I think this was both their second touchdowns of the game. Yeah, because Dante Moore's only touchdowns were to Sadiq, but that goes for 28 yards. Listen, there were a lot of passes in this game where I was like, hell yeah, Dante Moore, you are him. And again, it's not perfect right now, but he's completing balls at a high level. He's got a very high adjusted completion rate. A lot of times he's making the right call. It's just impressive. Now, whether he comes out or not, we'll find out. But to me, this is probably quarterback one. Now, there was another quarterback we should talk about in this game. Got Jaden Mayava. Not his best game of the year. It's just not. He had some good throws here and there, but he forced a lot of throws downfield. Like, he got bailed out by Jacoby Lane quite a few times. There was also at the end of the game, he had the fourth down to decide if USC was going to still be in it. And at first I was like, wow, he threw that really behind the receiver. No, it ends up being tipped. But all in all, wasn't a great showing from Mayava, who I have a feeling probably ends up returning. Next quarterback I want to discuss is Joe Fagnano out of UConn. And I don't have an up or a down arrow for him because this is my first time watching him. He's a guy that I've seen requested for in our live streams. But he's 6'4", 225, coming out of Connecticut. I think he was formerly played 3 years at Maine. But in this Florida Atlantic game, he goes 33 of 46 for 446 yards, 3 touchdowns. Let me let Gojo out real quick. No. Apparently, if it's not power 4, Gojo don't want to hear about it. But listen, I watched him and I just didn't feel like he had an NFL arm. I thought a lot of the throws had okay velocity, but it was very inconsistent. He had a throw, honestly, I think this was this the first touchdown? I can't recall. But he had a throw with some really good touchdown field. And typically, if you're going to throw downfield and you might not have the most live arm, you got to throw that sucker with anticipation and ball placement. And those were things I didn't really think were consistent, at least in this game. And I could go back and watch more of them, and I might. But I thought he was bailed out by his pass catchers a ton. I thought there were a lot of balls that were either placed behind receivers or he was just late to get it out. And there was actually another quarterback I've heard talked about in this game, Caden, Veldkamp, the Florida Atlantic quarterback. I would say in terms of arm talent, him and Fagnano are in the same ballpark. It's just Fagnano's not as hard. He has better decision making. He's not as loosey goosey with the football. Like Veldkamp, one of the throws in this game, he was under pressure and he just chucked it into triple coverage. Got intercepted good. It should have been. Though I will say Veldkamp had a fun little like tilt-a-whirl dive into the end zone for a rushing touchdown. I think they're both pretty comparable in arm talent, and I wouldn't really consider either of them draftable prospects, unfortunately. But hey, you never know. We'll see what the offseason draft process has for both of these guys. And then the final quarterback I want to talk about is Diego Pavia out of Vandy, probably the most fun quarterback. He's 6 foot, 207 pounds, had a phenomenal game against Kentucky, where he went 32 of 38 for 469 yards. Says he had 5 passing touchdowns. I've seen other places say 4. There was a swing pass in here that I'm wondering if some people had as a run rather than a pass, but 5 touchdowns. We're just going to say 5 touchdowns passing. He had one on the ground running as well. But let's talk about Pavia and his projection to the NFL, because he gives you some Taysom Hill vibes. He just does. He's a good runner with the football, legit acceleration and speed as a runner. He had an 11-yard run where he just beats the safety to the corner. He also shows toughness as a runner. That was apparent on the 6-yard touchdown in this game. The problem with Pavia is the lack of ideal size, for one. And a lot of what he does is outside of structure. And I would say he's got an average to above average arm by NFL standards. You don't see the zip downfield or towards the sideline a ton. But in this game, he was impressive. He was impressive. It felt like the anticipation, the touch was all on point. There was probably one throw in here where I was like, this man's just so in it. Like, he believes the hype. He is the hype that he just chucked it down there. He's lucky it was a touchdown and not an interception, but we'll get to that in a second. So he throws with some good touchdown field. He had a pass downfield where he was at the Kentucky 21. Should have been a touchdown. It was placed perfectly. It was timed perfectly. It was a tough catch for the receiver. He kind of had to dive and lay out for it. But still, I liked it. I liked the throw. The first touchdown he threw in this game, though, was a 71-yard bomb that traveled 44 yards through the air. It was utterly beautiful. Beautiful. If you had to put that sucker on a rope, though, I got some doubts about it. The second touchdown was that swing pass we talked about. The third was a 56-yard bomb just dropped into the bucket of his receiver downfield. They were in the middle of the field. He just, beautiful touch. Beautiful touch. And then the fourth was it was in the red zone. It was a corner fade for a 7-yard touchdown. Literally put it where only the receiver can get it. The DB had no choice, had no chance. It was great coverage, just perfectly placed. The fifth one, I think this was the dangerous pass, the 5th touchdown pass. He just throws it up for his receiver to go get it, and luckily his receiver does. I think that this was the one turnover-worthy pass he had in the game, because his interception was, the interception came off of, it bounced off his pass catcher's hands. Yeah, Pavia probably put it a little out and up, but still, I didn't think that was a turnover-worthy pass. It just happened to end up resulting in an interception. But with Pavia, you look at, okay, he doesn't have ideal height. Maybe a switch to the running back position. Maybe use him as kind of a Taysom Hill type of player in the NFL, because he's that good as a runner. But he's more put together as a passer than you would think. It's just he doesn't have the type of arm I'm willing to bet on. And that's why you won't hear Pavia talked about on day 1, on day 2. But dude, you get to day 3 and it's like, okay, I get it. He's an older guy. He'll be 25 at the beginning of his rookie year. And I just think he's more than just fun college football player. I think he can be a good prospect. It's just I don't think there's a good ceiling there when it comes to him as a passer. That's why you're going to look at other guys who may have just better tools at the quarterback position, like Brendan Sorsby, who's kind of been falling flat on his face as of late. Sawyer Robertson, even Taylon Green, turnover machine, but he's big, he's fast, and he's got a huge arm. So it's like you look at those guys, you might be more willing to bet on him. But Pavia, just with his play this year and his feel as a passer, and again, a lot of the stuff he does is outside of structure. Even when he's just not asked a lot to be in structure, a lot of it, I'm not saying it's gimmick, but it's like you have play action, you have moving parts, it's a rollout. A lot of the Vandy's passing game is disguised by the run game and what Pavia can do with his legs. But there are going to be some interesting prospects in this class where it's like, okay, does Pavia go over maybe like a Josh Hoover at a TCU, a Cade Klubnik at a Clemson, who are probably, they're better passers. At least they probably have better arm talent. but they also don't have great size, and they're not going to hold a candle to what Pavia could do with his legs, even if the arms might be, I think in Hoover's case, a little bit better, or in Klubnik's case, I think it's much better. So yeah, that's going to be fascinating. I think that's what we're talking about. Pavia as like a midday 3 prospect, but you're going to have to let me know in the comment section below. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Who were some guys that caught your eye? We got rivalry week this weekend. It starts on Friday. We're going to be streaming. That's right. We're going to be here for Texas A&M, and then we're going to come back for Ohio State, Michigan. But hey, there's going to be the Egg Bowl. There's going to be the Iron Bowl. Vandy, Tennessee is a game that means a lot when it comes to college football playoff. We got a very meaningful weekend of college football. So join us for that. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.